Uncle Dan.
Hey.
Do you ever feel a little directionless in life?
You know what? My whole life has been one big wander where I don't know what the fuck I'm doing or where I'm going.
No, that was just the past 4 episodes of this podcast. Hey-o.
Ba-boom. Nailed me. This show sucks.
Well, not all those who wander are lost. Well, but some people need a little extra help, and I think Uncle Mark's got something to help guide us.
When I took on this subject, I didn't really realize that I was yet extending another desert journey. But fuck it, we're gonna do it. We're doing it live. So, guys, I have a little bit of a confession to make this morning. So bear with me.
This is never good. We should probably do this off the air. I don't know.
Stop recording now. Everybody just turn the podcast down for about 5 minutes. So, unlike you two faithful young men, I may not have read the Book of Mormon as voluntarily as you two did. So, I was forced to try to read it almost every morning before school and sometimes during school and all day on Sundays and oftentimes Sunday nights as well. And what 7-year-old wouldn't develop a love for this third testament of the life of Christ by being dragged out of bed at 4:30 to sit through 5 chapters of Alma?
Oh, my God.
Lord, I tried, but my brain is allergic to the hyper-aggressive boredom that this book perfects like no other. But I absorbed plenty of it despite 20 years of trying not to, and I've read the Spark Notes enough to get the basic gist, as well as doing this here podcast, which includes plenty of Book of Mormon content.
Yeah, so, probably too much, but, whatever.
Is there such a thing?
Too much?
Yes, there is. So you, dear listeners...
Any might be too much. We're not sure.
You, dear listeners, don't have to read it. And please, people, take this piece of advice as the only one you'll ever really need. If you have not read the Book of Mormon, do not read the Book of Mormon. The only results will be your finite life being many precious hours shorter and a general persistent numbness in the area just above the top of the neck and directly under the hair. But if you must know what this masterpiece of rock in the hat, rapid translative dictation is all about, let me briefly summarize. I was getting a sip of water.
Yeah, you need that. Lube
it's
up.
Basically the story of a madly dysfunctional Jewish family in Jerusalem that was really terrible at remembering things or making packing lists, but somehow stupendously good at building huge boats, and then getting lost in the desert for a spell before going on a weird transatlantic sailing trip to the Americas almost 2,000 years before Columbus, and then building up huge civilizations with all their horses and elephants and steel and Hebrew goings-on. But then Jesus showed up for a while, and long story short, that just resulted in the naughty people turning brown, and that's how Jews ended up becoming the Native Americans. And then the last white Jew in pre-Columbian America had to hot step it all the way from Guatemala to somewhere near Niagara Falls with about 900 pounds of gold that he buried on the edge of what would become Joseph Smith's farm in the fullness of time. Oh, and shit, he wasn't the only white Jew to survive. There are 3 others, and I say are because they're immortal now and seem to hang out mostly on rural state roads in central Utah between Wallsburg and Sulphurdale. Oh, and in the last third of the book, the author began running out of names, so he started adding anti to the front and ha to the back of names from earlier chapters. Oh, and there's a cool prequel where people cross the Atlantic with horses and elephants in unpropelled wooden submarines with huge corks in the bottom. Yes, corks in the bottom of motherfucking submarines to clean out the poo. It's a masterwork, really.
That's quite
much literature.
That's quite the summary there.
Right, yeah. I kind of wrapped it all up, don't you think?
Well, I think if our listeners want the full experience of reading the Book of Mormon, they can listen to your summary and then go put their head in the refrigerator door and slam it shut.
Yeah. So turn on the gas in the oven, wait about 10 minutes, then put your head in.
There you go.
So, and for those familiar with the Bible, you'll find great familiarity with the dozens of chapters in the Book of Mormon cut and pasted directly from Isaiah, so that's neat. But in today's Holy Technology segment, I want not to talk about this whole dismal shit splat of a book, but rather a little treasure buried within this tale of mysteriously capable boat builders and ancient battles with 500,000 casualties. A treasure that, like the plates upon which this epic saga of name repurposing was buried in that humble hillside in upstate New York. Today's piece of technology is the Liahona.
Woohoo! The whoa, whata?
Da ha ha.
What are you talking about?
Well, let me tell you. The Liahona is a funny little doodad that shows up one morning outside Lehi's tent in the Book of Mormon. Lehi's family had fled Jerusalem because he prophesied it was going to be destroyed, except there were a couple times where they went back because they forgot some shit. And on one of those return trips, Lehi's son Nephi decapitates a sleeping man. These are the good guys. So Lehi's idiot family was trying to get to the ocean, but then became hopelessly lost. Never mind the Mediterranean is just 37 miles from Jerusalem, and any idiot knew which direction the ocean breeze was coming from and from whence the fish they bought in the market came. But let's not let that get in the way of the truth. So, stuck as they were in the desert, with nothing to do but watch Nephi's brothers endlessly plot to kill him for no fucking reason whatsoever, they were without much hope. And it was in that moment a thingy that looks a little bit like the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch, or maybe the snitch from Harry Potter, appeared on Lehi's front tent porch. Brothers and sisters, please turneth now to Nephi 16, chapter 10. And it came to pass that as my father arose in the morning and went forth to the tent door, because tents have doors, to his great astonishment, he beheld upon the ground a round ball of curious workmanship, and it was of fine brass. And within the ball were 2 spindles. The one pointed the way whither we should go into the wilderness. Now, notice anything, fellas?
Yes.
It is not named in its first appearance in the book. But it does have 2 spindles. One pointed the way they should go. The other was also a spindle. So shut up. Every good compass has two needles. Stop looking at porn. So, and notice the phrase curious workmanship. This is how the author of the Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith, got out of having to go into great detail about a thing. Because like L. Ron Hubbard, he may have been a writer, but he was a super shitty one. Lazy as fuck. So, and we should note, coincidentally, with, as we mentioned at the beginning of this, with Uncle Dan mercifully ending his real-time reenactment of the Book of Exodus last week, preposterous stories of being lost in not very big deserts for an extended period are important foundational myths in the Judeo-Christian canon. So as Joseph Smith said about his great work of cribbing and plagiarizing, a half pound of Exodus went into the pot, along with generous helpings of Isaiah, Deuteronomy, an extremely common school book about the War of 1812, that's serious, and loads more of other people's ideas. So, back to the story of the Magic 8 Ball. 18 verses after we meet the curious brass ball in chapter 10, the idiot Nephi finally figures out how it works, quoting the text again. And it came to pass that I, Nephi, yeah, we know who's talking, idiot, beheld the pointers which were in the ball, that they did work according to the faith and diligence and heed which we gave unto them. So, very much like another little magic MacGuffin, Tinkerbell, the curious brass Tinkerball runs on faith. The louder you clap, the norther it points. But wait, there's more. And there was also written upon them a new writing, which was plain to be read, which did give us understanding concerning the ways of the Lord. And it was written and changed from time to time, according to the faith and diligence which we gave unto it. And thus we see that by small means the Lord can bring about great things. Oh, snap. It also had a screen for the Lord to send you little jots and tittles of faith-affirming emojis, like, stop looking at porn. So it's really an incredible piece of reformed Egyptian, wish-powered tech, you guys.
I'm pretty sure that Jack Sparrow had one of these, didn't he?
Oh my God!
But unlike the whole rest of the book, like the whole rest of the Book of Mormon, First Nephi chapter 16 is full of bizarre narrative inconsistencies.
What?
I know. I'm going to break some news here. There's a lot of baffling behavior that can be written off to the protagonists being laughably stupid people with incoherent motivations, but not all of them. I give you verse 39 of the same chapter. And it came to pass that the Lord was with us, yea, even the voice of the Lord came and did speak many words unto them, and did chasten them exceedingly. And after they were chastened by the voice of the Lord, they did turn away their anger, and did repent their sins, inasmuch that the Lord did bless us again with food that we did not perish. So, in just one chapter, 38 verses, God's secret Santa's these dopes a new GPS. It doesn't fucking work until they figure out they have to believe it works, then figure out it has a text feature, in one of the needles that God can text cryptic messages on. Then they end up getting pissed off at God and not obeying him. And we finish the chapter out with God just straight talking to them in his own voice. No brass Little Orphan Annie decoder ring required. And we still don't know what the second needle is for. Spoiler, we never will. Just stop looking at porn, okay? So, now remember that nowhere in that chapter 16 desert debacle did we learn the name of the cool talking brass ball. Because if Joseph Smith was as terrible a writer as he was a husband and human being, it's not until 269 pages later the thing gets a name in Alma chapter 37, verse 38.
Really? Not.
I didn't
wow,
know that,
is
yeah.
a long time to wait.
It's named once in the Book of Mormon. One time. And now, my son, I have somewhat to say concerning the thing which our fathers call a ball, or director.
This son is the ball.
It is. We are now to call it testicle.
There are some who would call me Tim.
So, or director, or our fathers called it Liahona, which is being interpreted a compass, and the Lord prepared it.
Okay, just a quick aside for our listeners. The Book of Mormon supposedly was written in an ancient language into golden plates. Mm-hmm. So that sentence that Mark that circular sentence, totally superfluous sentence that you just read, was chiseled into a gold plate that had to be carted across North America. Just
that sentence probably weighed about 8 ounces.
Exactly.
Right? So the gripping narrative continues. And behold, there cannot any man work after the manner of so curious a workmanship. And behold, it was prepared to show unto our fathers the course which they should travel in the wilderness. And it did work for them according to their faith in God. Therefore, if they had faith to believe that God could cause that those spindles should point the way they should go, behold, it was done. Therefore, they had this miracle and also many other miracles wrought by the power of God day by day, blah, blah, blah. It goes on for several more verses, but basically the point is, do not anger Happy Fun Ball. And again, because Joseph Smith believed the path to glory was paved with word count, this is all just a retelling of what happened in Nephi chapter 16, those hundreds of pages ago. But at least this time he remembered to give it a name, which some desperate Mormon apologists have tried to say means curious ball, in a language they insist is called Egyptian. But we all know Curious Ball is the name of a bi-monthly Vogue and drag event for timid young bisexuals in the East Village. That's where I met Uncle Ben, actually. Many people might not know that.
What can I say? I'm a curious person.
Into the Curious Ball. Another Mormon apologist obligingly continues my joke here by claiming it may actually mean queen bee in some torturous mangling of Hebrew root words, and that it may also mean to God is the guidance. Oh. Those last two come to us from the mighty queen bee of Mormon apologetics himself, the ridiculous OG Grandmaster of lying for the Lord, Hugh Nibley.
I love Hugh Nibley. I love Hugh Nibley, if only for his name, which basically was designed. Like I don't think his parents knew that they were naming him so that we wouldn't take him seriously, but that's what ended up happening.
Well, we can do a whole segment about the ridiculously named Hubert Nibley another time.
Yeah.
But in the first half of the 20th century, as all the hard sciences began to narrow the possibilities of the ginormous truth claims of massive Jewish empires in the Americas and battles with body counts as high as any mechanized battle in World War II in the Book of Mormon, he said this, and I quote, "In view of the nature of their civilization, one should not be puzzled if the Nephites had left us no ruins at all. People underestimate the capacity of things to disappear and do not realize the ancients almost never built of stone." That's right, as we all know, from the total lack of pyramids, ziggurats, castles, walled cities, tombs, fortifications, obelisks, towers, tunnels, and ancient roads, anywhere in the world, the ancients almost never built of stone.
Well, and stuff would just up and poof.
Like Kaiser Sose.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Yeah, dinosaur bones. They just disappear. But,
right.
But here's the thing about that Hugh Nibley statement is no other sad, ahistorical, easily dismantled Mormon apologetic is as important as this one. This is the big bang of pure, uncut Mormon dishonesty and self-delusion. People underestimate the capacity of things to disappear. It's an unparalleled achievement of amoral clarity, if you ask me. So that's all there is for this pre-Columbian GPS in the Book of Mormon. 3 mentions, 1 by name, 1 just a glancing reference when they're out at sea. But it navigates its way back into another great Mormon work of Liahona, its true literature, the Doctrine and Covenants, which, unlike the Book of Mormon, actually pertains to Mormonism and how it operates.
Yeah.
So it's essentially the rule book and loads of doctrine, plus the revelations of Joseph Smith, etc. And we know the church itself and the Book of Mormon are all totes true because it says so right in the book.
How can you argue with that?
So now more than ever, stop looking at porn. That's right. In the Doctrine and Covenants, section 17, in June of 1829, God commands 3 of Joseph Smith's followers, via a revelation received by Joseph Smith, weirdly enough, to find truth in his claims by viewing the golden plates, the sword Nephi killed a sleeping man with, some magic eyeglasses that used to be super important but now have been unimportanted by the church, and a thing suddenly rechristened yet again as the Miraculous Directors, yet another name for the stupid, curious brass ball, the Liahona. So, at last this ball of confusion came to rest, having appeared in the desert of ancient Judea, journeyed fairly uselessly to somewhere in Central America, and then vamoosed via white flight to Fayette, New York, so 3 guys could give it a gander and swear the church was true. How about that?
Only 1 guy gave it a gander. The other 2 were...
Yes.
Only Joseph Smith actually saw the thing. The 3 witnesses who witnessed the thing didn't see the thing.
That's right. And this is the critically important 3 witnesses fable.
Right.
And we need to do a whole segment about it on the show another time. But long story short...
That sounds like an Uncle Doug sort of thing.
It's a very Uncle Doug segment.
I'm just going to say.
Long story short, it lets Mormons sleep at night because 3 guys saw the gold and trinkets and swore suspiciously pre-prepared affidavits that the Book of Mormon was true. But as Uncle Dan was alluding to, it seems the curious ball was as bad at convincing people of outlandish truths as it was at functioning as a compass, because the part of the story that our Mormon friends somehow forget to tell is that all 3 witnesses later denied they'd directly seen these treasures in person, and all 3 were excommunicated. So, to wrap up, have you guys ever been cursed by a vengeful mummy and ended up owning an Epson printer? Sometimes it works, but mostly it doesn't. And when you hit print, you fucking hold your breath and pray so you might coax it into responding. And on the off chance it does respond, it spits out a piss yellow smudge rather than your presentation. The Liahona was a pre-Columbian Epson printer of curious workmanship. So, fuck you, Liahona. You're a useless piece of shit. Nobody likes you. And of course... Now the Liahona, like those 3, the Liahona those 3 guys witnessed, is gone away, just like Laban's sword, the magic and now unimportant spectacles, and even the golden plates themselves. So sadly, we can't have any more witnesses, which is such a bummer. Aww. But remember, kids, don't underestimate the capacity of things. Even all the gold and gizmos that could totes prove your one true church is indeed true to disappear. And that's the Liahona, guys.
Wow.
And listeners should Google Liahona. It's spelled as it sounds. And it's because it's just you hit, search it in Google and hit images and just stare at that for a second.
Also, you can buy one of those at the gift shop in the Mormon Church History
Deseret
Museum.
Book, and Deseret Book as well.
Yeah. If you believe hard enough, it's half price.
You can. What you do is you make sure that one of the spindles points at free, and then you get it.
That's exactly right.
If you pray enough, it'll happen.
Somehow, I can't imagine what Joseph Smith was responding to when he decided to include this in the story. But any editor that had given the Book of Mormon a pass would be like, "Okay, you're going to take that out." Like,
you know what's interesting is there is a theory that remember how we did a segment on the Ark of the Covenant, and it's kind of a repository for incredibly holy relics,
right?
Right, that there was the manna, there was a pot of manna that Dan talked about. There was Aaron's staff, Moses' brother's staff, and there were the chunks of the 10 Commandments tablets, right?
Right.
Are in the Ark of the Covenant. And they think that Joseph Smith was cribbing, because that's what he did, off of that idea that these were like the holy relics of the Book of Mormon.
Right.
So it was, for those guys, it was like looking into the Ark.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah. So
Can I just say, by the way, that if we get over 1,000 patrons, we're going to produce a Magic 8-Ball Liahona.
Oh, for real?
We will make that happen. So
I love that.
join up.
I think that's a great idea. Absolutely. Join up.
I know. We can do it. We have the capacity.
And it'll have a little digital display like the Wonder Bible.
There you go.
It'll just give passages written by the three of us.
By the Lord.
By God.
It'll come to you from the God, your uncles.
And the little 20-sided dice inside will always just say, be reverent or stop looking at porn. So all right.
Look at porn, everybody.
Look at porn. That's the Liahona. Get lost.
Moving on.